Welcome to episode 4 in the City Manager Training video series. In this episode, we're going to go a little bit further down the funnel. So far, you've been talking about broad general things. What does it take to be a city manager or a county administrator? What is it like to be up on the DS? What is your role in doing that? Today, we're going to get, like I said, a little further down the funnel. We're going to talk a little bit about messaging and the impacts of social media. So, I titled this Effective Communicating. What is strategic communications? What are its limits? What are its strengths? So let me explain it to you in the broadest categories. Strategic communication, think of it like this. You have a quiver on your back, and in that quiver, you have different arrows. Communication is one arrow or a series of arrows that help you achieve a strategic objective. You don't communicate, and it's going to be the theme here, don't communicate for communication purposes or communications just to do it, but to do it to achieve an objective. I want to give you two real-life examples that our firm worked on over the years, and they both involve one of the most important subjects in running a local government, trash. We were brought into a city. Now, here's the setup. The city's trash vendor, their waste hauler, knew they were going to lose the contract. So they started pulling trucks and moving it to other future contracts. Bad move. The public lost their minds. As you can imagine, once trash started to pile up, things weren't being picked up. And who did they blame? They didn't blame the trash hauler. They blamed the city. We got brought in and we said the clear strategic objective here is to get the public focused on who is really at fault here. And so we engaged in a series of activities and efforts to showcase that it wasn't the city's fault. The city was doing everything they could, and they really were. Some of the things we did were we opened up a lawsuit against this. We started communicating about asking people to join our lawsuit. We even set up hashtags and URLs focused on the lawsuit. We asked the public to send us pictures that we can use in the filing of this lawsuit. And as a result of that, and we began to answer the questions. At the same time, the city staff was doing everything they could to rent other trucks, to lease out to other companies, and to do everything they could to take care of the trash problem. That's the other quiver, right? The operations quiver. On the communications side, we lit up social media. We did all kinds of media appearances. All of our press releases, all of our outreach was about help us hold this trash hauler accountable. And we did, and the public turned their ire not to us anymore, but onto the hauler. That's example number one. That was a crisis. Example number two, the city was dealing with an issue where you have the green can, right, which is the recycles, and you have the black can, which is what goes to the solid waste dump. Well, the more stuff that goes in the black can, the city had to pay for, and too little was going into the green can. We did a survey, and we realized there was a very environmentally conscious community. They liked the idea of recycling. We met with the team, we met with the leaders, and we said, here's what the communications plan is going to be. We're going to change the operations, all right? Change the operations. Instead of recycles being picked up every other week, those recycles would get picked up every week on the same day, because our survey showed us that people did not understand when their recycle was supposed to be brought out. We consolidated them to once a week, and instead of having backdoor service, because we would have had to raise the cost of trash, which again, as you know, you raise the cost of anything directly, people lose their minds. So we said we can't raise the price, but if we move more trash from the black can and get it put into the green can, we sell stuff by the ton in the green can. We pay to have the stuff in the black can taken away. We increased service on the green can, kept it once a week, decreased it on the black can, so once a week, from every other week to once a week, same day. Then we used a bunch of communications tools. We had the mayor calling homes the night before on an auto dial, letting them know the first night of trash, Next week is theirs. We sent them a nice explanatory postcard. We had town hall meetings. We went door to door in some neighborhoods. We even offered backdoor service for those people who were resistant to this, who needed help because they were elderly or disabled. And as a result of that, it went off smoothly without a hitch. We didn't have to raise the cost of trash, and we actually reduced the service by getting rid of the backyard pickup, going down to the side of the house, taking a can, dragging it out to the curb, and we reduced the frequency of trash removal, increased the recycles. As a direct result of it, the community loved everything we did. That's a good example of how you use communications, that tool in your tool chest, to help solve a growing problem in your community. So, here's my guy, Mike Tyson, right? What did Mike Tyson say about having a plan? He said, everybody has a plan until somebody gets punched in the nose. That's why we like to have a clear plan with clear goals. First, when you're doing a communications plan, how does your communications plan fit into your organizational objectives, right? We're not communicating just because we want to communicate. Oh, we want people to like us more. We want this, we want that. For me, that's not good. It has to help you achieve an organizational objective. Secondly, you develop a plan that aligns with those organizational objectives, that aligns with your organizational goals. Next, align communications objectives with those goals, and then communicate the clear goals to your team. If they don't know what the clear goals are and why the communications plan is being put in place to achieve those, they're less likely to successfully execute those. And then last, monitor for fidelity. You have to have a process in place to make sure we're doing that. I can't tell you how many times we do a poll for a client. We say, these are your top 5 messages. And then the first piece of mail or the first press release or the first speech by the mayor is almost irrelevant and completely unaligned with what we decided was going to be there. So you have to monitor for fidelity, make sure your team members are adhering to the plan and following through on it. That's the only way you can measure for success. Now let's shift a little bit, because in delivering a communications plan, you have to have a clear message. Okay? So I want to talk a little bit about message development. I want to give you some numbers. That first number, 5,000, an amazingly large number when I tell you what it is. That's the number of paid advertising messages a typical American receives every single day. That second number, 12, that's how many they can recall. Now the first number has grown throughout the years with the advent of social media, streaming media, et cetera, et cetera. The second number, of course, probably hasn't changed for hundreds of thousands of years. That's why it's important for you to stay on a clean, clear message. I want to show you what I'm talking about. You're looking at this. I'm guessing you know what this logo is. Now close your eyes. Can you tell me what the slogan is? Can you tell yourself what the slogan is? Most people can't. $200 million a year is spent on let's go places. Yet, most of you did not recall that. Let's try it again. The Home Depot. What's their slogan? Did you get it? More saving, more doing? How about this one? Walmart. I thought it was, and I've done this before, everyday low prices. Nope, they changed it about 5 years ago. Save money, live better. Last one. You got that right. You know why you got that right? Because Nike has never varied from that message. Those other companies, about every 6-7 years, somebody, maybe they get a new advertising firm or whatever, decides, we need a new slogan. Nike's never changed, just do it. And as a result of that, when I put that on the screen, you immediately got the message. That's why when you think of that 5,000 a day, you only recall 12. If you're going to have a clear message that you want to convey to the public, you got to be a laser beam repeating it over and over and over again. So how does that work? Let me give you one example. Obviously, this is just a webinar. I can't give you the whole spectrum, but you've seen this before, you've heard this before. Now when I explain it to you, you're going to go, oh, that's why I've heard it before. That's why I've seen it before, because it makes sense. We call it taking your laps, L-A-P-S-S. And for those of you who are grammarians, you'll say, but Steve, there's only one S on laps. Stay with me. So how do you do that? You're giving a presentation. You've decided whether it's a crisis or a new program you're unveiling, something with the city that aligns with your strategic goals. Somebody asks you a question. How do you answer it? How do you respond? You're going to take my 4-step process. Listen to the question, acknowledge the questioner, pivot with a positive statement, and then speak on your message. Here's how it works. Somebody asks you a question. You know, Mark Twain said, listen to a question as though it pains the questioner. Make them ask the question. Now, why do you do that? Listen carefully, lean in. Most of the times when someone's asking you a question about a project you're working at, about a crisis, or about something that you're trying to convey, you know what the question is. But what you want to do, like at a town hall meeting, a Kiwanis club, or whatever that is, or a press interview, you want to listen really carefully. Yes, you're listening, but you want to show that person respect by hearing what they have to say, but also you want to give yourself time in your head to start thinking, okay, they're talking about this new tax proposal we're putting on the table. They're complaining about taxes. I know what the question is, but I'm going to listen to them to show everybody in the room I'm being respectful. You're going to smile just like Gene Wilder, and you're going to begin practicing what you're going to say. Critical. By you listening on the outside, you got the nice face, but on the inside, you're thinking, oh, this is that question. Think about what you're going to say. Think about your answer. 2, acknowledge. That's the A. What do I mean by that? Now, the person's asked you a question, so the first things out of your mouth should be a positive statement back to that person so that others in the audience, even if it's a hostile person, they want to know you're in control. They want to know you're positive. They want to know you're treating a fellow member of their Kiwanis club with respect. That's why you're going to acknowledge what they're saying by, thank you. I'm so glad you brought this up. Man, that's a really good question. Thanks for bringing up this very important issue. Now, you've heard that, and one of the feedbacks I get, doesn't that sound trite, Steve? A, no it doesn't. B, if you don't like the sentences I'm giving you, come up with your own. But whatever it is, it's a transitional statement to acknowledge and say something nice back to the person, usually a moment of gratitude. Thanks for being here tonight. I really appreciate you coming out and asking that question. Then you want to pivot. All right, that's where you say, well, ma'am, it's critical to remember. Well, what's really important about this is the following. Now, what this does, just like the acknowledgement, right? I said, listen, so you can begin thinking in your mind, what am I going to say? That acknowledgement, likewise, you're on kind of autopilot. Now you want to be sincere, but now you're remembering, oh, I'm going to go to my third point and my talking points because they're talking about the taxes, or they're talking about waste, or they're talking about the past time we tried this and it failed. Whatever that is, you've got your messaging prepared. So you listen, think about what you're going to say, acknowledge, still thinking, but you're doing something else. You're putting a little distance between the question and the answer. And what that also does, it gives you the flexibility to not directly answer the question. Remember, your goal is not always to answer specifically the question. It's nice to do so, it's important to do so, but your goal, your strategic objectives here is to convey a clear message that's important to the public, whether that's an apology, an explanation about what happened, whatever that is, and as long as it aligns with your strategic goals, at this point, it's called the pivot. What's critical to remember here is, boom, back to message. So you see how that works? You listen, you acknowledge, you pivot. There's a lot of distance now between the question and your answer, and then you get to your message. Okay? Stay on your message. Speak on your message. And what should a message be? Remember my 5012? It needs to be clear. It needs to be concise. It needs to be coherent, meaning it needs to be understandable. And you and your team need to be consistent in conveying that message. Now, remember my second S? I tell you, it's always when you're done, you've delivered the message, and then you go, oh, and one other thing. That's why I often say the second S is to stop talking. Once you've delivered the message that you want to deliver, that's not the time for after chatter. It's you say, thank you. Take the next question, move to the next subject, end the interview, whatever that is, okay? So it's listen, acknowledge, pivot, stay on message, and then stop talking. Now, let's jump into a little bit of social media, AKA deal with it. For those of you who wish social media would go away, Breaking news. It ain't going anywhere. Everybody's on social media, at least almost everybody, or at least it seems like everybody's on social media. So, a couple thoughts about it. One, you have to recognize its power. You have to recognize its power. It's ubiquitous. It's now segmenting into different age groups, different types of demographics, and it's growing in all different forms. You have to recognize its power, both good and bad. That's why we're moving to a more professional standard with PIOs, CIOs within local governments, because social media is complicated, it's difficult, and it's powerful, both good and bad. Step two, it's out there, so you need to figure out a way to harness social media to your strategic advantage. I'm going to go into that in a little bit here. Also, it helps you build connectivity, awareness, and brand loyalty. Yes, your city, your county have a brand, and by being engaged with social media, it helps expand and build and deepen that brand loyalty. Fourth, make it relevant to your audience. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second, but it's kind of a pet peeve of mine when governments think they could be TikTokers, when they think they could have flash mobs, when they think they could do all kinds of different gimmicky things. Don't do that. Make it relevant to your audience. Be the government that you should be, and convey good, effective messaging, and don't try to get off on tangents that have nothing to do with governance. So, some content guidelines. One, remember the medium is the message. If you want to read stuff, read a guy named Marshall McLuhan. He explained every medium has its own rules and its own sources of engagement. And the very fact that you're on social media says a lot about your city, especially the types of social media you're on. Two, be guided by your goals, not clicks. I'm going to repeat that because it's so important. I see too many folks, oh, we got a whole bunch of likes on this. Hey, if you want a whole bunch of likes, have the mayor run naked down Main Street. You'll get a lot of clicks on that one. That doesn't achieve any strategic goal, and you should not be guided by how many clicks you get, but does this achieve a strategic goal? Are we communicating a message that is on message that aligns with the goals and the objectives we outlined earlier? If you find yourself saying, how many views do we get? How many clicks do we get? Blah, blah, blah. You know you're off your own message, okay? Now, if you produce a video and it costs you $5,000 and you get 7 views, there's other problems we could discuss at another time. Always be government-y. I like to say, don't take off the uniform. That's when we were developing this program one time for a law enforcement academy, we said never take off the uniform. And I mean, always be the government. If you're a small city, a medium-sized city, a large city, or a county, always be that role. Don't be cute. Don't try to be cutesy. I'm reminded of an incident where the New York City Police Department in the early days of social media thought it would be really fun to let's do selfies. Won't that be cool? Selfies was the hot new thing. Hashtag selfies. And guess what happened? People used that to create memes to attack the police department because they stepped out of the uniform. They were being goofballs. They were doing things like eating tacos at a taco truck, playing the game of eating a donut. You don't want to do that. You want to be serious. You have a very important role in the community to play, and always play that important role. Even though the medium hears the message, and we see what we see on social media. You see funny videos, you see cats playing pianos, you see people dancing on TikTok videos, etc. That's not your role. That doesn't help you achieve a strategic objective. Always be government-y. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them. What I mean by that, it's a great song, isn't it? But more importantly, you got to know when to stay on social media and when to get the heck out. There are times when things get so superheated, whether it's Nextdoor, Instagram, Facebook, or whatever that is, and you've got to just withdraw. You cannot change people's minds. If they're angry and they're upset, couple steps, couple things to do, get them out of the medium. Hey, give me a call. Hey, visit our website. And exit the conversation. And there are times even when you have to block the public when they violate rules of protocols. We could talk about that maybe at another time, about establishing those rules and those protocols and when to get people out, which is when to fold them. And last, think about this for a second. If someone is attacking your city, just like We talked earlier about in a public forum, if somebody asks you a hostile question, you're not going to change the mind of the person who's asking that hostile question. But all of that lapse, all of the listen, acknowledge, pivot, stay on message is not for that person. They're already negative. It's for everybody else in the room. It's for the TV camera. It's for the journalist recording the meeting. It's for your staff. It's for everybody else. Same thing applies on social media. If someone's attacking you, saying really nasty things about it, you're not changing their mind, but what you are doing is you're influencing those people who are watching. Okay? You always want to be professional. You always want to be governmental. You want to handle this with calm, composure, and again, always to achieve a strategic goal. That's why all those things travel together. Thank you very much for listening. I know I rushed through a ton of content, but I'm hoping this gives you an idea of some of the challenges and fun things that city managers, county administrators, and those in upper management get to do, have to do on a regular basis. Thanks for being with us. I hope you stay with the series and listen to episode number 5.